Junho couldn't believe his eyes. The massive space station hung in the void like a glittering jewel, its many docking arms stretching out to welcome ships from across the galaxy. This was it, the Intergalactic Ship Design Expo, the biggest event in the space calendar. As his small transport pod approached the station, Junho's 4 hearts beat faster with excitement. He had waited 5 long years for this moment. As the lead reporter for the Galactic News Network, he had seen his fair share of amazing sights, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to witness. The docking procedure was smooth, and soon Junho found himself in the bustling main hall of the expo. Aliens of all shapes and sizes moved around him. Some floated, some crawled, and some walked on multiple legs. The air was filled with a cacophony of different languages, all being instantly translated by the small device in Junho's ear. "Can you believe the humans are here this year?" a voice said nearby. Junho's antenna perked up at the word humans. He turned to see 2 Zorblaxians, their gelatinous bodies quivering with what seemed like excitement or nervousness. "I heard their ships are strange," the other Zorblaxian replied, its voice bubbling with curiosity. Junho smiled to himself. The humans were the newest members of the Galactic Federation, having only achieved faster-than-light travel a mere 50 years ago. Their presence at the expo was causing quite a stir. As he made his way through the crowd, Junho couldn't help but overhear more conversations about the humans. "I bet their ships still run on fossil fuels," laughed a tall, tree-like being. "Don't be silly," its companion retorted, leaves rustling. "But I wouldn't be surprised if they're held together with duct tape." Junho shook his head. It was always the same when a new species joined the galactic community. Everyone was quick to judge, to assume their technology was primitive. But Junho had learned long ago never to underestimate any species, especially ones that had managed to reach the stars. As he approached the human section of the expo, Junho noticed something odd. While other species areas were filled with holographic displays and sleek models of their latest ship designs, the human space was empty. Well, not entirely empty. There was a small booth with a sign that simply read, "Human Delegation. Ask us anything." Behind the booth stood a single human female. She had short black hair and wore a simple blue uniform with a patch that read Earth Space Agency. Her name tag identified her as Sungmi, Chief Engineer. Intrigued, Junho approached the booth. "Excuse me," he said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into perfect human English. "I'm Junho from the Galactic News Network. May I ask where your ship designs are?" Sungmi smiled, a gesture Junho had learned meant friendliness in humans. "Hello, Junho. I'm glad you asked. We decided to do things a little differently this year." Junho's antenna twitched with curiosity. "Differently? How so?" Sungmi's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Well, instead of just showing models or holograms, we thought we'd give everyone a real surprise. Our ships will be arriving shortly." As if on cue, a loud announcement echoed through the expo hall. "Attention all attendees. Please make your way to the main viewing deck. The human delegation will be making their grand entrance in 10 minutes. The hall erupted into a frenzy of excitement. Aliens of all kinds rushed towards the viewing deck, their voices a mix of skepticism and curiosity. "This should be good," muttered a rock-like Petrosepian as it rolled past. "Probably just some clunky metal contraption," sniffed a cloud-like being as it floated by. Junho looked back at Sungmi, who was still smiling. "Care to give me a hint?" he asked. Sungmi winked, another human gesture Junho had learned meant secrecy or playfulness. "Let's just say, Junho, that you're about to see the most outlandish ships you've ever seen in your life. Human creativity knows no bounds, especially when it comes to space travel." With that cryptic message, Sungmi gestured for Junho to follow her to the viewing deck. As they walked, Junho couldn't help but feel a tingle of excitement run through his exoskeleton. Whatever the humans had planned, he had a feeling it was going to be big news. As they reached the crowded viewing deck, Jun-ho positioned himself at the front, his recording devices at the ready. The vast expanse of space stretched out before them, dotted with stars and distant galaxies. But all eyes were focused on a single point in space, waiting for the arrival of the human ships. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd. In the distance, a small point of light appeared. It grew larger, brighter, until it was clear that something was emerging from hyperspace. But it wasn't like any ship emergence Jun-ho had ever seen before. Instead of the usual flash of light and appearance of a ship, the space in front of them seemed to unfold. Like a piece of paper being carefully opened up, a massive structure began to take shape before their very eyes. Jun-ho's mandibles dropped open in shock. Whatever he had been expecting, it certainly wasn't this. As the human ships continued to reveal themselves in the most impossible and mind-bending way, one thought ran through his mind. These truly were the most outlandish ships he had ever seen. The crowd on the viewing deck watched in stunned silence as the human ship continued to unfold before their eyes. What had started as a small point of light was now blossoming into a massive structure that defied all conventional ideas of spaceship design. Jun-ho's four eyes blinked rapidly, trying to make sense of what he was seeing. The ship, if you could call it that, looked like a giant metal flower. Its petals were slowly opening up, revealing intricate patterns and designs etched into their surfaces. "By the cosmic winds," whispered a serpentine alien next to Jun-ho. "What in the galaxy is that?" Sung-me, the human engineer standing beside Jun-ho, smiled proudly. "That," she said, "is the Origami Voyager." As if on cue, a huge holographic display appeared above the viewing deck, showing close-up details of the ship. The Origami Voyager was unlike anything Jun-ho had ever seen. Its main body was a perfect cube, but from this cube extended 6 enormous piddle-like structures, each one as large as a small moon. The piddles weren't just for show. As Jun-ho watched, he saw that they were covered in a shimmering, almost transparent material. "Solar sails," Sung-mi explained, noticing his interest. "But not like any you've seen before." Indeed, these solar sails seemed to ripple and move, catching light from nearby stars and converting it into energy with incredible efficiency. But that wasn't all. The edges of each pedal were lined with what looked like tiny blinking lights. "Gravitational wave sensors," Sung-mi said. "They allow the ship to surf on gravitational waves, achieving speeds we once thought impossible." The crowd around them buzzed with a mix of awe and disbelief. Jun-ho could hear snippets of conversation from various alien species. "It's not aerodynamic at all. How does it even move? Look at the size of it. It must take incredible energy to power something that big. Is this some kind of joke? Surely that can't be a real spaceship." But as they watched, the Origami Voyager began to move. Its movements were graceful, almost dance-like. The petals folded and unfolded in complex patterns, allowing the ship to change direction and speed with astonishing agility. Suddenly, a new voice boomed over the station speakers. "Greetings, citizens of the galaxy. I am Captain Ji-hun of the Origami Voyager. We hope you're enjoying the show." The holographic display shifted to show the interior of the ship. The bridge was a marvel of human engineering, with holographic controls floating in midair and crew members working in what seemed to be a zero-gravity environment. Captain Ji-hun, a tall human with a friendly face, continued, "What you're seeing is just the beginning. The Origami Voyager is more than just a ship. It's a whole fleet in one." As if to demonstrate, one of the giant pedals suddenly detached from the main body of the ship. It folded in on itself, transforming before their eyes into a smaller, sleek vessel. "Each pedal can become its own ship," Sung-mi explained to a slack-jawed Jun-ho. "For exploration, rescue missions, or even combat if necessary." The display showed more transformations. The cube at the center could reshape itself into different configurations, adapting to various space environments. The solar sails could act as shields, energy collectors, or even as giant communication arrays. But how? stammered a bug-like alien nearby. The energy requirements alone would be minimal. Sung-Mai finished for him. The entire ship is built using our latest metamaterials. They can change their properties on a molecular level, allowing for these transformations with very little energy input. Junho's mind was reeling. This went beyond advanced technology. This was like magic. But he knew better. Human history was full of things that seemed like magic at first, only to be revealed as clever applications of science and engineering. As the demonstration continued, Junho noticed something else. Despite its size and complexity, the Origami Voyager moved with incredible speed. One moment it was near the station. The next it was at the edge of the solar system, then back again in the blink of an eye. "How is it so fast?" he asked Sung-Mai. She grinned. "That's thanks to our quantum fold drive. It doesn't just move through space, it folds space around it. But that's a story for another time." The crowd's reaction was a mix of emotions. Some were clapping their various appendages in appreciation. Others were shaking their heads in disbelief. And some looked worried. Junho understood why. If humans could build something like this, what else were they capable of? The balance of power in the galaxy might be shifting faster than anyone had anticipated. As the Origami Voyager finished its demonstration with a flourish, folding back into its compact cube form, Captain Jai-Hun's voice came over the speakers once more. "Thank you for watching, everyone. We hope this demonstrates that humanity is ready to be a valuable member of the galactic community. We look forward to sharing our ideas and learning from all of you. After all, the universe is big enough for all kinds of designs, even outlandish ones like ours." With that, the human ship winked out of existence, using some kind of cloaking technology that even Junho's advanced sensors couldn't penetrate. The viewing deck erupted into chaos. Everyone was talking at once, a cacophony of excited, confused, and concerned voices. But Junho only had eyes for Sung-Mai, who was watching the reactions with a satisfied smile. "So," Junho said, his journalistic instincts kicking in, "what other surprises do you humans have in store for us?" Sung-Mai's eyes twinkled with mischief. "Oh, Junho," she said, "we're just getting started." The buzz of excitement on the viewing deck was electric. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were talking over each other, their voices a mix of awe, disbelief, and concern. Junho's reporter instincts were on high alert. This was the biggest story of his career, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. "Sung-Mai," he said, turning to the human engineer, "I have so many questions. Where do we even begin?" Sung-Mai's eyes lit up. "Why don't we take a closer look? Follow me." She led Junho through the crowd to a smaller, quieter room off the main viewing deck. As they entered, the walls came to life, displaying a 3D model of the Origami Voyager. "Now," Sung-Mai began, her voice full of enthusiasm, "let's talk about what makes our ship so special." Junho watched in amazement as the model began to move and change before his eyes. Sung-Mai explained each feature in detail. "First, let's look at the solar sails," she said. The model zoomed in on one of the giant pedals. "These aren't just for show. They're made of a material we call photon fabric. It can capture and store light energy with nearly 100% efficiency." Junho's antenna twitched with interest. "But how does that help with faster-than-light travel?" Sung-Mai grinned. "That's where it gets really interesting. The energy stored in the sails can be used to create localized wormholes. Essentially, we're not just traveling through space, we're bending it." The model showed a simulation of the Origami Voyager seemingly disappearing from one point in space and instantly reappearing light years away. "Incredible," Junho whispered. "But surely that must use an enormous amount of energy." "You'd think so," Sung-Mai nodded, "but that's where our next innovation comes in. We call it gravitational surfing." The model shifted again, showing the ship riding what looked like waves in the fabric of space itself. "Every object in space creates ripples in gravity," Sung-Mai explained. "Stars, planets, even dark matter. Our ship can detect these ripples and use them to boost its speed and power. It's like surfing, but on waves of gravity instead of water. Junho's mind was reeling. This went beyond advanced technology. It was like the humans had looked at the laws of physics and decided they were mere suggestions. But wait, he said, a thought occurring to him. What about the crew? Surely these maneuvers would turn them into mush. Suddenly laughed. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But we solved that too. Watch this. The model zoomed in on the central cube of the ship. Inside, Junho could see tiny figures moving about. We've created what we call a bubble of calm. Some said, no matter what the ship is doing on the outside, the interior remains stable. Our crew can enjoy a nice cup of coffee while we're surfing a supernova. Junho's mandibles dropped open in shock. That's impossible. Improbable. Maybe, some corrected with a smile. But we humans have a saying, the impossible just takes a little longer. As they continued to discuss the ship's features, Junho's admiration for human ingenuity grew. The Origami Voyager wasn't just a ship, it was a marvel of imagination made real. One last thing, Summa said, her voice taking on a note of pride. Watch this. The model of the ship began to change. The petals folded in, the cube reshaped itself, and suddenly, instead of a ship, Junho was looking at. Is that a space station? He asked, incredulous. Summa nodded. Or a colony ship, or a mobile research lab. The Origami Voyager can adapt to almost any need. We can explore a gas giant's atmosphere one day and host an intergalactic conference the next. Junho was speechless. In all his years as a reporter, he had never seen anything like this. The implications were staggering. With ships like these, humans could go anywhere, do anything. The galaxy would never be the same. As if reading his thoughts, Summa's expression became serious. I know what you're thinking, Junho. You're wondering if we're a threat. Junho didn't deny it. The question had been nagging at him since the demonstration began. Summa placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of friendship that transcended their different biologies. We're not here to conquer or dominate. We're explorers, dreamers. We want to learn, to grow, to help. The Origami Voyager isn't a weapon, it's a bridge, a way to reach out to the farthest corners of the galaxy and say, hello, let's be friends. Junho felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had seen the wonder in Summa's eyes as she talked about the ship. This wasn't the look of a conqueror, but of a child showing off a beloved toy. Well, he said, his journalistic instincts kicking back in, I think the galaxy is in for quite a ride. One last question, Summa. What's next for humanity? Summa's eyes twinkled with mischief. Oh, Junho, she said, echoing her words from earlier, we're just getting started. How would you like to see our next ship? It makes the Origami Voyager look positively ordinary. Junho's antenna perked up with excitement. Whatever came next, he knew one thing for certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. As Junho and Summa exited the small room, they were met with a scene of chaos. The main hall of the expo was filled with the sounds of heated arguments and excited chatter. Aliens of all shapes and sizes were gathered in small groups, gesturing wildly and speaking in raised voices. What's going on? Junho asked, his antenna twitching with curiosity. Summa's face fell slightly. I was afraid this might happen, she said. It looks like not everyone is as excited about our designs as we hoped. As they moved through the crowd, Junho could hear snippets of conversation. It's not natural, a blob-like creature was saying, its surface rippling with agitation. Ships shouldn't be able to change shape like that. Think of the implications, a tall, spindly alien with multiple eyes was arguing. If they can build ships like this, what's to stop them from taking over the galaxy? Junho's heart sank. He had seen this kind of reaction before when new species joined the galactic community. Fear of the unknown often led to mistrust and conflict. Suddenly, a loud voice boomed over the commotion. "This is an outrage. We demand that the humans be removed from the expo immediately." The crowd parted to reveal a group of aliens standing on a raised platform. At their head was a Zornthar, a species known for their conservative views and distrust of new technologies. The Zornthar's name was Krell, and he was a well-known politician in the Galactic Council. "These human ships," Krell spat the word as if it tasted bad, "violate every principle of safe space travel we've established over millennia. They're a danger to themselves and everyone around them." Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the crowd. Junho looked at Sungmei, expecting to see worry or anger on her face. Instead, she looked calm and determined. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying clearly over the noise. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding." All eyes turned to Sungmei as she walked towards the platform. Junho followed close behind, his recording devices capturing every moment. "My name is Sungmei," she said, addressing the crowd. "I'm the chief engineer of the Origami Voyager project. I understand your concerns, and I'd like to address them if I may." Krell glared down at her. "What is there to address? Your ships defy the laws of physics." Sungmei smiled. "They don't defy the laws of physics, Ambassador Krell. They simply use them in ways you haven't seen before. Just as your ancestors once thought faster than light travel was impossible, we've found new possibilities in the fabric of space-time." She turned to address the wider crowd. "I know our designs seem strange and perhaps even frightening, but I assure you, they've been tested extensively for safety. In fact, they're safer than conventional ships in many ways." "How can a ship that folds like paper be safe?" someone in the crowd shouted. "An excellent question," Sungmei replied. "Our ship's ability to change shape actually makes them more resilient to damage. They can adapt to different environments and threats in ways rigid ships can't." As Sungmei continued to explain, Junho noticed a shift in the crowd. The angry murmurs were being replaced by curious questions. Even some of the aliens who had been shouting the loudest were now listening intently. But Krell wasn't ready to give up. "Even if they are safe," he said, his voice dripping with disdain, "these ships give humans an unfair advantage. They should be banned from commercial use." A new voice joined the conversation. "And deny the entire galaxy the benefits of this technology? I think not." Junho turned to see Captain Jae-hun striding towards the platform. The human captain's presence was commanding, and the crowd fell silent as he spoke. "Ambassador Krell," Jae-hun said, his voice firm but respectful, "I understand your concerns. Change can be frightening. But humanity didn't develop these ships to gain an advantage over anyone. We did it because we believe in pushing the boundaries of what's possible." Jae-hun looked around the room, meeting the eyes, or eye equivalents, of various aliens. "We're not here to dominate or control. We're here to share. Every aspect of our ship design will be made available to the galactic community. We want to work together, to combine our ideas with yours, to see what incredible things we can achieve as a united galaxy." The silence that followed was deafening. Junho could almost see the minds of the assembled aliens working, considering this new perspective. Finally, a Quaxian, a species known for their logical thinking, spoke up. "Captain Jae-hun, Engineer Sungmei, your offer is intriguing. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our judgment. I propose we form a committee to study these designs in more detail." Murmurs of agreement swept through the crowd. Even Krell, though he still looked unhappy, seemed to realize he was fighting a losing battle. As the tension in the room began to dissipate, Junho felt a tap on his shoulder. He turned to see Sungmei smiling at him. "Well," she said, "that was exciting. But you know what? I think the real excitement is just beginning. How would you like to be the first alien journalist to take a tour of the Origami Voyager?" Junho's antenna quivered with excitement. This story was far from over, and he couldn't wait to see what happened next. Junho could hardly contain his excitement as he followed Sungmei and Captain Jae-hun towards the docking bay. His 4 hearts were beating fast, and his antenna was twitching nonstop. He was about to be the first alien journalist to step foot on the Origami Voyager. As they walked, Jun-Ho noticed that a large crowd of aliens was following them. It seemed he wasn't the only one curious about the human ship. "Captain," Jun-Ho said, "I thought I was going to get an exclusive tour." Jae-hun smiled. "Plans change, my friend. After that little scene back there, I think it's best if we show everyone what our ship can do. Are you up for a little adventure?" Jun-Ho's eyes widened. "Adventure? What do you mean?" "You'll see," Sung-mai said with a wink. They reached the docking bay, and Jun-Ho gasped. The Origami Voyager was even more impressive up close. Its surface seemed to shimmer and shift, like it couldn't decide what color it wanted to be. "All aboard," Ji-hun called out to the crowd. "We're going to take a little trip." There was a moment of hesitation, then excitement took over. Aliens of all kinds rushed forward, eager to see the inside of the strange human ship. As Jun-Ho stepped inside, he was amazed. The interior was nothing like he expected. Instead of cold metal walls, everything looked soft and organic. The floors seemed to mold to his feet, providing perfect comfort no matter what kind of appendages you had. "Welcome aboard the Origami Voyager," a friendly voice said from everywhere and nowhere at once. "I am ARI, the ship's eye. Please make yourselves comfortable. We'll be departing shortly." Jun-Ho looked around in wonder. There were no visible controls, no pilot's chair, nothing that looked like a traditional spaceship bridge. "How do you fly this thing?" he asked Sung-mai. She grinned and tapped her temple. "With our minds, mostly. Araya reads our thoughts and intentions. But don't worry, we have manual backups too." Before Jun-Ho could ask more questions, Captain Jae-hun's voice rang out. "Ladies, gentlemen, and others, we're about to demonstrate some of the Origami Voyager's capabilities. Please, don't be alarmed by what you're about to see and feel. You're perfectly safe." Suddenly, the walls of the ship became transparent. Jun-Ho could see the space station shrinking rapidly as they moved away at incredible speed. "We're now traveling at half the speed of light," Araya announced calmly, as if this was no big deal. The aliens gasped and murmured in amazement. Even species with fast ships usually needed time to accelerate to such speeds. "Now," said Jae-hun, "watch this." The ship suddenly folded in on itself. Jun-Ho felt a moment of panic. Were they being crushed? But he felt no discomfort. In fact, he felt nothing at all. When the ship unfolded, they were in a completely different part of space. "We are now in the Andromeda Galaxy," Araya announced. "Travel time, 0.3 seconds. The crowd erupted in shocked exclamations. Travel between galaxies usually took years, even with the fastest ships. "How is this possible?" a Zornthar scientist demanded. Jun-Ho recognized him as one of Krell's advisors. Sung-mai stepped forward. "We call it space folding. Instead of moving through space, we fold space itself, bringing our destination to us. But the energy requirements," the scientist sputtered, "are minimal." Sung-mai finished for him. "We use the gravity waves of nearby celestial bodies to power the fold. The bigger the distance, the bigger the wave we need to ride." Captain Jae-hun clapped his hands. "But that's not all, folks. Watch this." The ship began to change shape again. This time, it split into multiple smaller ships, each one still connected by shimmering energy threads. "Each section of our ship can operate independently," Jae-hun explained. "Perfect for exploration, rescue missions, or scientific studies." As if to demonstrate, one of the smaller sections detached completely and zipped around a nearby asteroid field, collecting samples at incredible speed before reattaching to the main ship. The aliens watched in awe as the Origami Voyager continued to demonstrate its capabilities. It dived into the heart of a star, protected by its adaptable hull. It skimmed the surface of a black hole, using the intense gravity to slingshot itself across the galaxy. Through it all, Jun-ho furiously took notes. This was the story of a lifetime. Finally, after what seemed like hours of mind-bending demonstrations, the ship folded space one last time and returned to the expo station. As the amazed aliens began to disembark, still chattering excitedly about what they'd seen, Jun-ho turned to Sung-mei and Captain Ji-hun. "That was incredible," he said, his voice filled with awe. "But I have to ask, why? Why go to all this trouble? Why create a ship that can do all these impossible things?" Ji-hun smiled, a twinkle in his eye. "Why?" he repeated. "Because it's there. Because we can. Because every time we push the boundaries of what's possible, we learn something new about the universe and ourselves." Sung-mei nodded in agreement. "And because," she added, "in a galaxy full of wonders, sometimes you need an impossible ship to discover them all." As Jun-ho left the ship, his mind was reeling. He had a feeling that this was just the beginning. The galaxy would never be the same again, and he couldn't wait to see what the humans would come up with next. As the excited crowd dispersed from the Origami Voyager, Jun-ho noticed Sung-mei and Captain Ji-hun in a hushed conversation. Their faces were serious, but there was a glimmer of excitement in their eyes. Jun-ho's antenna twitched with curiosity. "Excuse me," he said, approaching the humans. "Is everything all right?" Ji-hun turned to him with a smile. "More than all right, Jun-ho. We've just received word from Earth. It's time to unveil our other projects." Jun-ho's four eyes widened. "Other projects? You mean there's more?" Sung-mi laughed. "Oh, Jun-ho, the Origami Voyager was just the beginning. Come with us. You're going to want to see this." They led Jun-ho to a large, circular room he hadn't noticed before. As they entered, the walls lit up with holographic displays. Jun-ho gasped. The images showed ships and structures unlike anything he had ever seen. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all kinds," Ji-hun announced to the gathering crowd, "we present to you the future of space exploration and habitation." The first hologram expanded, showing a massive ship that looked like a floating forest. Trees, rivers, and even mountains were visible on its surface. "This is the ecosystem arc," Sung-mei explained. "It's not just a ship, it's a self-contained world. It can support millions of life forms in a completely sustainable environment." Jun-ho watched in awe as the hologram zoomed in, showing the intricate ecosystems within the ship. There were sections mimicking every environment on Earth, from Arctic tundra to tropical rainforests. "But how does it move?" a curious Quaxian asked. "It doesn't need to," Ji-hun replied. "The ecosystem arc can generate wormholes, instantly transporting itself across vast distances of space." The crowd murmured in amazement, but Jun-ho noticed something else. "Those plants," he said, pointing at the hologram. "They're not all from Earth, are they?" Sung-mei beamed at him. Very observant. "No, they're not. The ecosystem arc is designed to preserve and study life forms from all over the galaxy. It's a cosmic Noah's Ark, if you will." The next hologram showed a much smaller ship, barely larger than a personal transport. Yet something about it made Jun-ho's antenna stand on end. "This," Ji-hun said with a hint of pride, "is the Quantum Skipper." As they watched, the tiny ship in the hologram seemed to flicker and disappear, reappearing instantly at various points in space. "The Quantum Skipper doesn't travel through space," Sung-mei explained. "It skips between quantum realities, allowing for instant travel to any point in the universe." The crowd fell silent, trying to grasp the implications of such technology. But that's impossible," the Zornfar scientist from earlier exclaimed. "Improbable," Ji-hun corrected with a smile. "We humans have a saying. The difference between the impossible and the possible lies in a person's determination." More holograms appeared, each showing ships and structures that seemed to defy the laws of physics. There was a ship that could dive into stars to study them from the inside, another that could shrink to subatomic sizes to explore quantum realms, and even a massive space station that could create its own pocket universe. As Junho frantically took notes, trying to capture every incredible detail, he realized something. The galaxy wasn't just changing. It was being revolutionized. Humanity's wild designs weren't just pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They were redrawing those boundaries entirely. "I have a question," Junho said, his voice filled with wonder and a hint of concern. "With all this technology, you could easily dominate the galaxy. Why share it with everyone?" Jae-hun and Sung-mai exchanged a look. Then Jae-hun spoke. "Because that's not who we are, Junho. Humanity has a long history of conflict and misunderstanding. We've learned the hard way that progress comes not from domination, but from cooperation." Sung-mai nodded in agreement. "These ships, these technologies, they're not weapons or tools for conquest. They're bridges. Bridges between worlds, between species, between different ways of thinking. Our goal," Jae-hun continued, "is to bring the galaxy together. To explore, to learn, to grow, not just as individual species, but as a united galactic community." As Junho looked around the room, he saw the impact of these words on the assembled aliens. The fear and suspicion from earlier were gone, replaced by excitement and hope. A Zornthar stepped forward, not Krell, but a younger one. "On behalf of my people, I would like to formally request a cultural exchange program with humanity. We have much to learn from each other." One by one, representatives from other species came forward, eager to collaborate and share knowledge. Junho felt a swell of emotion. He had come to this expo expecting to report on new ship designs. Instead, he was witnessing the birth of a new era for the entire galaxy. As the excitement in the room grew, Sung-mai leaned in close to Junho. "You know," she said with a twinkle in her eye, "we haven't even shown them our best stuff yet." Junho's antenna shot up in surprise. "There's more." Sung-mai just winked. "Stay tuned, Junho. The real story is just beginning." The days following the human presentation flew by in a blur of excitement and activity. Junho had never been busier in his life, running from one interview to another, trying to capture every detail of this historic moment. As he sat in the space station's bustling cafeteria, sipping on a drink that tasted like liquid starlight, another human invention, Junho reflected on everything he had seen and learned. The Galactic Council had been in non-stop sessions, debating the implications of human technology. Some species were eager to embrace the new possibilities, while others remained cautious. But one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. Junho's thoughts were interrupted by a familiar voice. "Mind if I join you?" He looked up to see Sung-mai, the human engineer who had become something of a celebrity in the past few days. "Please," Junho said, gesturing to the empty seat across from him. As Sung-mai sat down, Junho noticed she looked tired but happy. "Big days ahead?" he asked. Sung-mai nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "You have no idea. The Galactic Council just approved our proposal for an interspecies exploration initiative." Junho's antenna perked up. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means," Sung-mai said, leaning forward, "that we're putting together crews made up of members from all interested species. We're going to explore the unknown parts of the galaxy together." Junho's 4 hearts skipped a beat. "And let me guess, you'll be using human ships." Sung-mi grinned. "Not just our ships. We're going to work with engineers from other species to create new designs. Imagine combining Zornthar energy technology with our space-folding drives, or integrating Quaxian logic systems into our AIs." The possibilities made Junho's head spin. That's incredible. But surely not everyone is on board with this." Sung-mi's smile faded a little. "You're right. There are still those who fear change, who think we're moving too fast. Ambassador Krell and his supporters are pushing for more regulations, more safeguards." And what do you think about that? Junho asked, his journalistic instincts kicking in. Sungmi considered for a moment. I think caution is good. We humans have made mistakes in the past by rushing into things without considering the consequences. But at the same time, we can't let fear hold us back. The universe is vast and full of wonders. We have a chance to explore it together, to learn from each other. Just then, Captain Jaehyun approached their table. Sungme, it's time, he said, his voice filled with excitement. Sungme stood up, then turned to Junho. Want to see something really special? Intrigued, Junho followed them to the viewing deck. As they entered, he gasped. The space outside the station was filled with ships of all shapes and sizes. He recognized the elegant curves of Quaxian vessels, the crystalline structures of Zornthar ships, and, of course, the impossible geometries of human designs. What's going on? Junho asked, his voice barely a whisper. This, Jaehyun said with pride, is the first fleet of the United Galactic Exploration Force. As Junho watched, the ships began to move in perfect harmony. Human vessels merged with alien designs, forming new structures that defied description. It was like watching a dance among the stars. We're about to make our first jump, Sungmi explained. We've detected signals from beyond the edge of our galaxy, something no one has ever seen before. Junho's antenna quivered with excitement. And where exactly are you going? Jaehyun smiled. Where no one has gone before. Suddenly, space itself seemed to ripple. The fleet of ships, now merged into one massive, beautiful structure, began to glow with an otherworldly light. Junho, Sungmi said, turning to him. We'd like you to come with us, as an independent journalist, to document this historic journey. Junho's 4 eyes widened in shock. Me? But I'm not prepared. I don't have any training for deep space travel. Jaehyun laughed. Don't worry. Our ships can adapt to any life form. You'll be as comfortable out there as you are here. As Junho stood there, torn between excitement and fear, he realized something. This was why humans had created their outlandish ships, not just to explore, but to bring people together, to turn the entire galaxy into one big diverse crew, ready to face the unknown. Well, Sungmi asked, holding out her hand, are you ready for the adventure of a lifetime? Junho looked at her hand, then at the incredible fleet of ships outside. He thought about all he had seen in the past few days, all the wonders and possibilities. He thought about his comfortable job, his predictable life. Then, with a smile that lit up his entire face, Junho reached out and took Sungmi's hand. Let's go see what's out there, he said, as they walked towards the airlock, ready to board the ship that would take them on an adventure beyond imagination. Junho knew one thing for certain. The story of humanity's wild designs was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning, and he couldn't wait to see what the next chapter would bring.